A dynasty in motion, reshaping the sport's greatest tradition, channeling the legends of his line and surpassing them. 4 of the last 6 Derby winners carry his genes. A Golden Son, a Horse of the Year. Another chapter written beneath those iconic spires. Derby dreams fulfilled for the titans of our industry. From authentic to sovereignty, a legacy both real and supreme. Into mischief.
Hello everybody, Mike Welch coming to you again from Saratoga this year, the site for the second year in a row of the Belmont Stakes. I'm here with the Daily Racing Form Belmont Stakes Clocker Report, brought to you by Spendthrift Farm, the home of 6-time reigning General Sire, champion General Sire Into Mischief, whose offspring Sovereignty became his record-tying 3rd Kentucky Derby winner. And Sovereignty obviously will be trying to duplicate his performance in the Derby a couple of days from now in the Belmont Stakes. And he's continued to look extremely well coming out of that last final sort of maintenance-like work here we talked about earlier in the week. And then the same can be said for Journalism, who went to the main track again today. And just looks a picture of health for those that, again, thinking maybe, and I was one of them, thinking maybe that the grueling effort, the trouble trip and everything that happened in the Preakness might have taken something out of him. Surprised to see that he is actually thriving, if nothing else, the good word to describe it, as he moves closer to try to avenge that setback in the Derby with Sovereignty. Baeza, too, went out on the main track today. Baeza and Journalism are out at the same time, and he's also in the mix, the top 3 contenders, the 3 favorites for this year's Belmont Stakes. As promised the other day, we're going to talk a little bit about a couple of the undercard races on Saturday's card that are of extreme interest to everybody, and to me in particular is the Woody Stephens. I think this is one heck of a race. Just fighting the betting favorite, settling on who that might be is going to be a difficult task, let alone coming up at the winner. Unfortunately, we had a little bit of bad news today. One of the major contenders, perhaps one of the favorites, or a horse that would have been close to that, Colloquial, is going to have to come out of the race due to a little physical issue. Trainer George Weaver informing the track that Colloquial will be scratched, but it will still leave a spectacular field of 10. Leadership in the 3-year-old sprint division will likely be up for grabs. And running down the field real quick, trainer Bob Baffert has both Citizen Bull and Matticat Road in the race. Matticat Road was second best to Macho Music in the Pat Day. Chase Macho Music from start to finish over a sloppy track that day. Surprising to some that Matticat Road was not sent to the lead. He is going to add blinkers for the Woody Stephens, and he's drawn inside Citizen Bull. So I think their intentions are pretty well known here. I'm going to see Matticat Road is just going to try to reverse that strategy from the Pat Day and try to go to the lead, outfoot Macho Music, and see if that changes the result, at least between those two. But they've got a lot of other really talented horses to deal with. Macho Music is drawn right outside Matticat Road, and his trainer, Rohan Crichton, is extremely confident. He loved his horse going into the Pat Day Mile. He was overlooked in the betting, 13-1. He was an easy winner on the front end. A lot of people are kind of saying that was because of the wet racetrack and getting loose on the lead in there. Rohan said, I think this horse would have run that well no matter what the racetrack was. That's how good he was doing. And he's predicting that he's going to be even better, that he's doing even better coming out of that race. Patch Adams for Brad Cox, one of 2 in here that Brad Cox will saddle with a gunmetal, both coming off very impressive allowance wins in Kentucky. Both lightly raced horses eligible to improve and move forward. Citizen Bull and Niakwa, both coming out of the Kentucky Derby. Niakwa was 13th, Citizen Bull was 15th after contesting a pretty torrid early pace. Well, he's going to turn that back in distance. He's going to take the blinkers off. Trainer Bob Baffert saying that he needs to change something with this horse, whose form is obviously tailed off now. This is the reigning 2-year-old champion. Also, we mentioned Niakwa. This is a horse, too, that I thought ran well in the Florida Derby behind Tappan Street. He ran well in the Fountain of Youth behind Sovereignty. He didn't run that badly either, disputing that pace with Citizen Bull in the Derby. Now he's going to turn back to what his trainer, Staffy Joseph, believes is his best game, going 1 turn, 7/8 of a mile. So Niakwa, and he is trained really well over this racetrack since he's been here. And then there's Chanson McPatrick, who is the very, very tepid 4-1 morning line favorite in the race, a two-time Grade 1 winner. He's 3 for 3, going one turn. His last 3 races around 2 turns, not as good, so it was kind of a no-brainer. Trainer Chad Brown said, just going to go back to basics and turn him back to a one turn here. Blinkers will come off. He's going to need some pace help up front, but he's training really well. I like each of his 2 works I've seen since I've been here. And then the co-feature on the card, without a doubt, is the Met Mile. It only drew a field of 5, but what a field it is. And leadership in the handicap division could be up for grabs here as well, with Fierceness and White Barrio in this lineup. But I also would not overlook Just a Touch. I've gotten to see some tapes of him from Kentucky working for this race. He's coming off 2 allowance victories by 10 and 7 lengths, and he really looks spectacular coming out of those 2 races and coming into the biggest test of his career. I would not overlook him in this field. But White Barrio has trained super over this racetrack. He's done extremely well since he's left Florida. He won the Pegasus. He did it easily over lock. And it looks to me like he's coming up to this race every bit as good as he was going into the Pegasus. The question is the distance, a mile. He's 1 for 4 at a mile, but I think he's doing better now than at any time he tried those distances in the past. So White Barrio is going to be a formidable, obviously. And Fierceness, so what can you say about Fierceness? Runner-up in the Breeders' Cup Classic, came back and won the Ali Sheba in record time. He too is trained well coming in here. Not more of in maintenance fashion than White Barrio perhaps, but I love the gallop out of his last work over the slower Oklahoma training track. So that's a look at 2 of the just endless stream of graded stakes and spectacular Grade 1 races here on Saturday. So like I said, we are going to come back again tomorrow, one more day, and run down the entire Belmont Stakes field. So keep it right here. Again, the best coverage for Belmont Stakes 2025 is, as always, at DRF.com.